can't, couldn't do it, and did it all. Man, that is so much what we want to try to instill in you, is to have the courage and the confidence that you leave every drop on the field. You squeeze everything out of the towel. You don't do anything halfway. You're like, I can do it. I have the confidence I can do it. Man, that's been so ingrained in my life now for 60 years. I've heard my mom say that. And today it is my life mantra, and I'm living that way.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the View from the Top podcast. This is episode number 1. Are you ready to get this thing rolling, Big A?
Wally's in the house, man. I have been so looking forward to this day. Kevin, I think we're going to have so much fun with View from the Top podcast. Hopefully we're going to share some really cool nuggets with everybody. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to get this up and going.
Awesome. Well, you know, you've had this idea about a podcast on your bucket list for a long time. And I know you've literally been a guest on 1,000, maybe 2,000 or more other podcasts. So, like, just share with us why this particular podcast and why now?
You know, it's kind of funny when I think back about being a guest on podcasts. Someone told me about 10 years ago, they said, Big A, you should get on podcast and share your story. You've got a really interesting story and you should get on and share it. And I'm like, man, I'm all about that. Like, I was excited. I'd been in bricks and mortar, you know, for like 30, 35 years. I said, but I got one small little dilemma. He said, what is it? I said, I don't know what a podcast is. He said, what? He said, you don't know what a podcast is? And I said, I told you, man, I've been in bricks and mortar my whole career. And then he introduced me to this podcast world. And I know I did it backwards. I mean, everybody tells me most of the things I do in my career, I do them backwards. But it was a way for us to share, to really get out and to teach people about our story and what we were trying to accomplish. And so I wanted to leverage these other audiences. You know, I wanted to get on and share my story rather than going through the grind, you know, of getting 1 download, then 10 downloads. And I'm like, man, I need to get it going a little bit faster than this. And so I started being a guest, and John Lee Dumas had me on Entrepreneur on Fire when he first started, and it was kind of the catalyst, and I fell in love with it. I was like, man, this is so fun to get on and talk to these cool people. I mean, like, where else do you get to do this? And we get to share our story, and I get to learn from the podcast host, and it worked amazingly well for getting coaching clients. I did a lot of coaching in the early days, and then we launched a number of masterminds. I'll never forget when I started View from the Top. I went to Robin and I said, I'm only going to coach a couple of people. And she said, I thought you retired, like, for the final time. And I said, I know, but I'm only going to coach a couple of people. If you'll just let me coach a couple of people, I think it'll be good. And I shared my story, and 15 people called and wanted me to coach them one-on-one. And I went to Robin. I started laughing. I said, Robin, listen, like, 15 people have called me and I can't coach 15 people. I need to start a mastermind. And she said, oh, here we go again. I know I've heard this song and dance many times before. And right on the heels of that came our book, View from the Top. And we just leveraged other audiences, Kevin, on these podcasts. And it's really worked out well to do our promotion. So I get asked now daily when I do other interviews, hey, Big A, when are you going to start a podcast? And I'm like, I don't know, man, that's going to require a lot of work. And it was really becoming obvious to us that over time, with the level of experience that we've had in the course of our careers and some of the successes and even the failures, like, we're going to talk about all of it on this show. But it was really important to us to really think through and really pray through how could we best use our experience. And it became evident that we needed to start our own podcast, View from the Top.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. This is officially started, right? Episode 1. So you're here.
Yeah,
here you go.
It's a pretty important day. This is cool.
That's right. That's true. You got to start with one. Everybody starts with the first one, right?
Right. And here we are. Here we are.
Great.
Well, you know, we started, when we started dreaming about this, you and I were kind of kicking the tires on it. You know, we would sit in my office and we would go to different, like, podcast movement and Podfest and things like that. And it just became this thing that we're like, man, you know, you have done thousands of shows. I don't know. We kind of keep quit keeping track of it on a regular basis. We started out really doing a good job of keeping up with it, and I've just made it kind of part of my day. And we really just said, hey, we got to do this thing.
Yeah. Doing a podcast is one thing. You know, we have talked about many times. You just mentioned it. We sat around the office and throwing the ping pong ball back and over the net a little bit too. By the way, I think I'm up. I'm not keeping score or anything.
Oh, here we go. I knew you was going to work this in.
I know. I don't know. I think I've won so many times I can't keep track. So
I'm going to get a scoreboard and put it in the rec room out there where we can keep up with it. But I knew you would work that in this first episode that you beat me pretty bad.
No, it's all
but
good.
you know, let's get back to the important things that I wanted to talk about. There were so many things that you and I went back and forth on. Mm-hmm. We said, we want to take these deep dives. Like, we don't want it to be surface level. Like, we hear that stuff all the time. It's like guys are coming on telling how great they are and how you can make $50 million in 3 hours and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, that's true. You can make a lot of money. But I want to do some deep dives on some things that are really important to me and you. And you and I have really earnestly thought through some of the things that we wanted to talk about. And one of the main topics is what is it that you really want to accomplish in your life and in business? Like, what is it that you want? I mean, if you really start thinking about being specific in nature about what it is that I want to do professionally, and how much money do I want to make, and where do I want to give it away, and how do I want to raise my kids, and what is the lifestyle that I want to live, and like really get specific with that, man, it takes some time. I mean, it takes some real effort to really think about that. And then Robin came to me, like now almost 2.5, 3 decades ago. And she said, I appreciate your hard work. I appreciate the level of success that we've had, but I want you to be an amazing husband, and I want you to be an amazing dad. And there's some shortfalls, there's some places that we've struggled in our marriage. And she said, I really don't want to be a single mom raising these kids. Like, I want you to put these boundaries up, and I want you to be an amazing husband. So we're really going to dive deep into what that looks like for you to be an amazing husband and amazing dad. But years ago, when I had that automobile accident, I really started thinking through what my life had looked like. And I'd had great success financially, but man, I didn't have any significance at all. Like, my life wouldn't have mattered to many people outside of my family. And it was really a pivotal moment in my life where I had to think about, what would my legacy be? Like, we're all building a legacy, right? And are we doing it intentionally? And so I had to start thinking about, what does not only success look like, but what does significance look like? Then you and I were kind of talking back and forth about how we want to help people really understand how they can work hard and really accomplish these things financially, but man, not sacrifice your family in the process. And I come so near doing that. And Kevin, I know you've shared some times in your career where you were at a real pivotal moment. There was a time where you had to make some decisions. Do I give up growing as fast maybe as I want to and spend more time, with Sonia and the kids, or like, what do I do? And so we're going to dive into that. And then the other thing is we may not all admit this, but we want to be called to a higher level. Like, we want to call you up. I mean, the guy that's sitting there listening to us right now, it's like you're going through life kind of average. I remember my mom telling me one time, don't ever bring home a C, because that's as close to the bottom as it is the top. And I'm like, I want to be better. Like, you just watch, I'm going to do better. Well, I know some of you out there right now are kind of stuck in isolation. You're kind of in a spot where you're just in coast mode. You're in neutral, and we want to help you press the gas. And I believe that we can help you do that as we kind of peel these layers back.
Yeah, I love that. So you talk a lot about transparency. In the past, I've heard you talk a lot about genuine, having authenticity. And you made a statement a while ago that men are starving to death today for authenticity.
Yeah.
And I see that so often and everywhere. We were just talking just a minute ago. We had a call with a guy that not in any of the masterminds. He's not coaching, just in another part of the business world. And he was just echoing some of the same things in his world that we see in ours. And so I'm looking forward to diving into the things we're going to talk about and how we're going to break them down and dive deep. And I love this idea of courageous questions that we're going to be asking ourselves, asking each other, and asking our guests that we have on over time. So I'm looking forward to
Kevin, when you said that, it made me think about a young man I had at my house several months ago. We were standing out in the breezeway of my home. And I walked up to him and I said, we'll call him Billy for privacy's sake. I said, Billy, I said, let me ask you a couple questions. He goes, yeah, sure. I said, how long have you been married? He said, I've been married 8 years. And I said, do you watch the same things on TV when your wife is present and when she's not? He said, what do you mean, Big A? And I said, well, exactly that. Like, do you always watch the same thing? He said, well, no. He said, I'm a guy and I kind of watch some things maybe she wouldn't approve of. I said, well, do you tell the same jokes in front of everybody, regardless of who it is, if it's children or if it's other men or people you go to church with or in your community? Do you tell the same jokes to everybody? Well, no, I have to kind of figure out the crowd, and I don't want to offend anybody, and I want to kind of monitor the room. And I said, man, do you drink the same things? Do you tell the same stories? Do you have the same level of conversation regardless of who you're talking to? No, not really. I really don't. I said, man, is that not exhausting? Like, don't you want to be the same guy regardless? He goes, yeah, Big A, that sounds really good. I said, we've got to have the courage to do that because sometimes somebody may be talking about you to me and I'm not sure which guy I'm getting. And so I want to really dive in and help men understand, stand up and be who you are, right? Be courageous in that. Be authentic so that your wife and your children, the people in your community, your cohorts, they're getting the same guy each and every time. We need to live that way. And so authenticity, yes, Kevin, is a big deal. And I do think people are starving to death for it.
And a lot of these first episodes, a lot of times we listen to these first episodes and people tell their origin story and go back. We're not actually going to do that today. We're not going to share our individual origin stories. We're going to blend that in over time as we get guests on and as we cover topics and things. But we do have our own experiences and lots of them, everything from business transitions, successes and failures, and developing people and teams and business sales and exits, and some good, some not so good. You alluded to it earlier, but like your many retirements. I say that.
Robin asked me the other day, she goes, how many more times are you going to retire? It's like, I don't know. I said, I'm through saying that. I'm through saying that I'm going to retire. Yeah. She said, I can point to 3 different times. And I'm like, hey, Robin, I'm done. Like when I die and Jesus takes me home, I guess I'll be retired fully. But until then, man, we've got a strong message that we need to be sharing. Kevin, I know that you and Sonia have had an amazing marriage over 30 years now, and that's just absolutely incredible. Robin and I will celebrate our 43rd anniversary. So we got almost 75 years of marriage experience that maybe we can share a few things with people along the way. I've watched you raise your kids. And man, what an incredible job you have done with those children. Matter of fact, guys in our mastermind today will come to Kevin and get advice on how to handle their daughter. It's like, I've got this situation because Kevin's kids are older. They're married now and he's got some grandkids. And so, but you and Sonia did such a spectacular job, man, in that journey, raising your kids. And I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about those things as well. You and I both are men of faith, and so we're going to be talking about that. We welcome everyone to come and listen to this show, but we are going to be diving into who we are. We are authentic, and we want to be genuine in doing those things. I know you talked about the ping pong a little bit earlier, but I want to talk about fishing in a little bit as far as if we're going to have levels of contest. I need to get you on the lake, and we need to see what you got fishing. And you got that fancy new mountain bike, and we're going to be talking about some of these trails. I want to get a bike too. I haven't told Robin yet. I'm going to buy a bike and go with you, but I think it'll be fun. along the way. We want to have fun, right? We want to share some nuggets of wisdom. We want to talk about our relationships, raising our children. I've got 2 beautiful daughters myself. They're grown now, 5 grandchildren. We do feel like that we can add a little bit of experience along the way related to our marriages and our children.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be different about this podcast versus other podcasts? Why come be a part of the View from the Top podcast community?
Yeah, I think our combined experiences are really tough to find today. Successful marriages and multiple businesses. I've owned a number of businesses. You've started up business, had a very successful exit a few years ago. I think our role together, we're like the dynamic duo. I'm the visionary, but you're the integrator. You're the guy that makes it happen. I'm the guy that sits back and says, hey, I see it, and this is what we can do. But I think that unique combination that you and I have together to be able to share the vision, and then you implement it with the strategies, the systems, the processes. You're just a phenomenal operator. And thank you, first of all, for that, man. What a great job you've done for us. We have 2 really different approaches. I mean, our perspectives are different, right? We've had different life experiences. Your approach is very methodical and regimented and thought out. Matter of fact, I even get on to you sometimes. I'm like, man, we going to fire the gun and ride the bullet, or are you just going to keep digging until we get this thing perfect? And you keep saying, hold on, we're almost there. So I think it's that pull and push. I think it's that different. I think it complements us. It works good for us. It's opposite, but they're very complementary strengths. It's kind of that yin and yang, and so I think that's one of the reasons that it's going to really be good.
Yeah, that's good. We talked a lot about things that marriages and businesses, and I know we both have. Think about this podcast, what might be different. Think about that transparency, genuine authenticity. We're going to ask some tough questions on here. We're going to ask some courageous questions that maybe aren't being asked other places, and we're going to walk through those. And so we all have battle scars. If we're out there fighting, and we're out there have goals, and we have dreams and things we want to accomplish, we're going to have some battle scars. And I think we can all learn from those as well as the successes.
There's a lot of great podcasts out there, man. There's thousands and thousands of great podcasts out there. I think what's going to be fun for you and I is we share really strong core values that align, and we have similar worldviews. And there's many podcasts out there today that's informational, but few allow you kind of behind the curtain like we're going to do. Like, we're not going to just come on here each and every week and we're going to share all this success and really not going to divulge problems that we encounter. Like, 43 years is a great marriage, 30 years is a great marriage, but I guarantee you, because I know you personally, you've got challenges right now. I've got challenges right now. Like, I've never been in a 43-year relationship, right? And I've never had adult grandchildren, and I've got that now, and we're having to figure our way through that. But so we're going to share those things, right? We're going to open the curtain up. We're going to come from behind the facade. We're going to let the veil down, and we're going to say, hey, this is what we're dealing with, and maybe share some ways that you can dodge some of those landmines that we've had to go through. We're not just going to share those big wins, but we're going to share struggles and losses. And you know what? We're going to have time also that we're able to share wins. Like, I don't mind coming on here sharing that we're winning. It's like, hey, this coaching program's going good. The Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind is going good. And we've met great new people that have joined our organization. And we're going to share the wins, right? Because if we're going to share the trials and the struggles, I think we should be able to share the wins as well.
Yeah. So that's going to be awesome, man. I know that, with you coming on each week, I was thinking back to what I've learned about you, what I know about you. And I think I've known you now for about 2016. So what's that, about 8 years? Just about going on 8 years.
Yeah.
And so I've learned a little bit about you and spent a bunch of time with you the past couple of years, especially. And, I just know that that from an early age, you had a lot of grit and determination. I think you started your first business when you were 18. And, I didn't do that. I don't know what it's like to start a business like you did at 18. So you started off like just probably not knowing a whole lot.
I
So,
did. Sometimes I
yeah,
question whether I know a lot now or not, but I really didn't know anything then, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
was too dumb to know better, and
that's
so
right.
yeah, I just went for it. But
That's
yeah, we
right.
did. We
So,
started our first one at 18.
yeah. And I know if anybody that knows you, you're going to come to these episodes each week when we're talking or whether we're interviewing other folks, that you're going to bring let's call it an air of just not mincing words and being
Mm,
straightforward.
mm,
And I think, frankly, when I first met you, you took me back a little bit.
mm,
I can be pretty straightforward in terms of information and knowledge, but God just gifted you. One of your spiritual gifts is definitely being able to really, I call it leaning in really hard and then pulling back with love. And I think you do a great job at that. And so, because you really truly care,
mm,
even folks in the audience, right? Like that may not know us personally, but I just know that your gifting there is going to come across in a way that going to really cause folks to have to really think about what's being talked about, really challenge them, especially with our guests. But they're gonna walk away knowing that it was the out of love and compassion
Yeah, man,
for
I
sure.
appreciate that. Thank you. I thought for a second you were fishing for an apology. I was like, oh my gosh, what have I said to him? And I owe him an apology for. But hey, man, you know how much I love you, Wally, and how much I want to see you succeed as well. Just like the people that are listening to us today, man, we want you to be a part of this community. We want you to be in because we want you to live a successful and a significant life. But on the other hand, Kevin, one of the things that you really bring to the table too is, I mean, you grew up kind of in a blue collar situation. I mean, I think you had a mobile home that you lived in. Money was pretty sparse. You shared a pretty small bedroom with your brother, and that probably taught you a lot of lessons, being able to fight somebody. But you're very curious. I love that about you. You know how to resolve tough problems. I've seen your level of skill uh, flourish in an environment like this, and so you've been really good for us. But one of the things I like about you the most is the humility that you possess, and so I think it's a trait that God's given you that's gotten you a long way down the road. And it's one of the things that's created the level of success that you've been able to experience in your personal and your professional life. So I think as we work through these, as we go along the way, man, we're going to share other qualities, other areas that need great amount of improvement on because we are going to be authentic. We are going to really let our guard down. And we're going to be real. We're going to be genuine. We're going to bring some amazing people onto the show that's going to share their journey, share some of their trials and tribulations that they've been able to experience as well. And our whole objective is for us to learn, right? For us to grow together, to really have the courage kind of to ask the questions that no one else is talking about and no one else has the courage to ask. And I think about a lot of people out there today that's listening to us that they've lost all sense of direction. Like they don't know how to get out of the fog. They're like wandering aimlessly. And then many of the guys out there are thinking, what I thought about yesterday really seems so right. But today when I think about it, it doesn't seem as applicable as it did yesterday. And it's like, man, now I don't know which way to go at all. We're facing so many guys today that have so many options. And they're like, I don't even know the path to go on, right? I could go any direction and I don't have any idea which way to go at all. There's so many guys out there that have these pseudo friendships. They have people with different opinions and they're like, I don't know who to ask, right? I don't know who to go to because they don't have all the data. They don't know me intimately. They haven't spent time with me ongoing. Like I don't even have anybody. Like I'm in real isolation. And I share with people all the time that isolation is the enemy of excellence. And if we're going to live in that, we're going to continue to feel kind of on this path alone. And so we don't want that. A lot of guys ask us many times, is it selfish to want more? Like we're aspirational. Like I'm the guy I need to be more content, but I don't ever want to be complacent, right? And it's that pressing the gas all the time, pushing. And Robin comes and says, hey, hold on, wait a minute. What are you trying to accomplish? And she kind of aligns me a little bit. And so, when I first started, Kevin, my pride and ego was something that really got in the way. And I was asking myself honest questions like, what is my motivator? And so, man, we're going to really dive deep into these questions and really understand who you are as an individual. And we're going to invite these guests on to kind of break down their story. It's not going to be just you and I, but it's going to be some amazing folks along the way.
When we spent some time thinking through like, what is the essence of the time we're going to spend together? And you very animately, is that a word? You were very animated with the idea of the quote, the movie line from A Few Good Men.
I love that show. I love that movie.
Yeah. Walk us through like just how that fits into, as we kind of close out this episode here in a minute,
Sure.
just how that feeds into what is the essence of the show.
I remember the movie years ago. It was called A Few Good Men. Tom Cruise was grilling Jack Nicholson on the witness stand. I mean, he was up in his face, and I know everybody listening to this has probably watched it. If you're too young, go Google A Few Good Men and watch it. And he's sitting there, and Jack Nicholson, he pounds on the podium and he said, you can't handle the truth. He said, I did call for that code red. And I'd stand up and shout every time I hear it. I was like, oh man, I just wished I was in that courtroom. And I looked at Tom Cruise's face and he's like, now I don't know what to do. He's admitted that he called the code red. And now he's like, I don't know what to do. Well, many of us today say we want to know the truth. But when somebody steps up to the plate and then they really dish it out to you, many of you kind of duck and run. You're like, oh man, I thought I wanted to know the truth. Listen, it's painful sometimes to hear the truth. It's painful to me. But man, don't you want to know the truth? Don't you really want to go down this path to live that life that God has called you to live and live it to its maximum? We can't do that if we don't know the truth. If we don't surround ourselves with people that can call us out, really encourage our superpowers, point out the kryptonite, really show you what your blind spots are, you can't live your life to its maximum. And that's what we're going to do. There are a few good men out there. You're listening to me right now, and I want to call you up. I want to say, can you handle the truth? And I want to ask you to really think through the way you're living your life now. Is it this pseudo-transparency, or are you really living a life where you want to know the truth, where you can go and maximize your time?
Yeah, that's powerful. One of the segments that we want to talk about on the show, hopefully every week, is we want to bring a full cup. I'll let you describe what that is in just a moment. But the full cup that I wanted to bring this week, actually, I heard on a mastermind call this week. I just want to drop a full cup in here real quick. I was asking about my wife's 50th birthday is this past weekend, and we have a big party coming up. And I was asking about gifts and just getting some encouragement from the guys there, what I might do. And they had a lot of great ideas. It was fantastic. It was so good. But one of the ideas that one of the guys brought up was the idea called the Note Cube. You guys can go Google that, look up Note Cube. Really cool idea as a gift, very sentimental with pictures and quotes. You can kind of take a little survey and it kind of creates a notepad that you can give to your wife. Very sentimental, very personal, very cool gift. So that's my full cup for this episode is Note Cube for a very intimate special gift for your bride. But what's a full cup going forward?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is a cool thing. I looked that up, by the way, and they started retargeting me yesterday. So I was like, hey, their marketing strategy is working. We want to give out of abundance, right? And when you start thinking about sharing, we want to be the giver, not the taker. and we want to be able to share some kind of skill or a tactic or some kind of shortcut or like habit stacking ideas to increase your productivity. We want to be very efficient in everything that we do. So as we go along, we hear from so many guys each and every day. They've always got amazing. We could probably start the episode and just give full cups and not get anything else done. But we're going to do this. Expect us to highlight some of the products and services that we feel are really changing the landscape of what you're doing in your business. And so just stay tuned. You're going to be hearing those either through the episode or at the end of it. But we're always going to be trying to help you level up in your relationships and all the business landscapes of your life.
Awesome. All right, Big A, you've got the last word before we finish this first episode up.
You know, I was thinking about this, knowing we were going to come to a conclusion for the first episode. And when I was a kid, my mom had a saying. She would say, can't, couldn't do it, but could, did it all. And she would say that all the time. And I grew when I was a child to hate that. I mean, as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, do you have to keep saying that? Little did I know that I would adopt that as my life mantra. When I wrote my book, View from the Top, it's the title of the first chapter. Can't, couldn't do it, and could, did it all. Man, that is so much what we want to try to instill in you, is to have the courage and the confidence that you leave every drop on the field. You squeeze everything out of the towel. You don't do anything halfway. You're like, I can do it. I have the confidence I can do it. Man, that's been so ingrained in my life now for 60 years. I've heard my mom say that. And today, it is my life mantra, and I'm living that way. I want to encourage you one final thing. And I hear entrepreneurs, small business owners, people say this every day. Man, I'm afraid. Like, if I try this thing, it may not work. And I just want to encourage you to fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure. Because for me, failure is in not trying, not in not succeeding. So develop your mindset of I can do it. There is no question about it. And I'm going to be fearful of missing an opportunity more than I fear failure. And I think you'll go out there and live a very successful and significant life. Hey, thank you for joining us today on View from the Top podcast. We couldn't be more excited. Wally, thank you for being here. I am so excited about what the future is going to bring. We're going to keep marching forward. So go out there and live your best life today. I'm Aaron Walker. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Hey, if you're interested in learning more about who we are, you can always track us down, and you can visit viewfromthetop.com. Or you can email us at pod@viewfromthetop.com, or you can DM us on LinkedIn or Facebook. And don't forget about our full cup. This episode was Note Cube. Go check them out. Don't miss an opportunity to do something special for that someone that you love. See y'all next week.